name is Kathy Marr. I am the Executive Director of the Barnum Museum, and it is my honor to be here today hosting this fantastic program. The mummy story for the Barnum Museum goes way back to the 1890s, and it is truly the story that just keeps on giving, and we're so happy to share that with you. But just very quickly, just a hands, is this anyone's first time here? I see so many familiar faces. Sandra, Roberta, Brad. Yes, well, thank you so much for coming. A little bit of the background. I came to the Barnum Museum initially as the curator back in 1998, believe it or not, and the mummy was an integral part of the interpretation. For many of you who have come to the Barnum Museum, some people have came when they were in their Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts and saw the mummy laying there. It was the memory that people have carried with them through the course of their lives. It's extraordinary. And I often tell people back then when they saw the mummy, it was still a boy, because modern research has revealed all types of new stories about the mummy. You're going to hear some of that today. But back in 2006, as the young curator to the museum, I wasn't quite sure what we had in the collection. Was this, in fact, a real human remains mummy? Was it something that might have been fabricated? Because we all know we're dealing with P.T. Barnum, okay? So let's jump into that. And Google was invented at that point. I had heard about a show called the Mummy Roadshow, if anybody remembers that, on National Geographic. And it was like, well, let's Google, what is that? It's like, maybe we'll find a hit, something interesting to take us on another journey. And it turns out what pops up is Quinnipiac University Bioimaging Department. And I'm like, Quinnipiac, Connecticut? And it was like, sure enough. And I'm like, they're down the street. Within 24 hours, I know he's going to hate this, but Jerry Conlog is here. Within 24 hours, Jerry was here with Ron Beckett to say, we've been trying to engage the Barnum Museum and doing research about this mummy since the 90s. So now was the time. And it was exciting because I got to be a part of this journey. We had done some CAT scans on it. We did x-rays on it here in the Barnum building, the historic building, and I remember we had media, we had all types of, we had the Associated Press here, and Ron and Jerry look over at me after we actually did those first x-rays, and they were like, it's real, and it was like, yes. So that's really how we led. And then it really brought us to the point of doing some real science. We had the opportunity to tell and expand the story from the 1890s story. P.T. Barnum's wife donated our mummy to the collection, and she's been here. But enough about that. You're going to hear some more about the modern research, but I want to just thank a few people, which is my job. Jerry, I pointed out back there, Ron Beckett, who is retired now, but we won't let him go. Dr. Alan Laurie, Larry, Joe Mullins, I don't think he's here today, but he helped with the facial reconstruction that we also did this year. Dr. Bradley Adams, and Dr., of course, Sahar Saleem, who has visiting us from, well, she's traveling all over the United States and Canada, but we're so blessed that she's here to share this story. And a long champion of the Barnum Museum is the Connecticut Humanities Council, who's funded this program. So that's an important, if you ever see a call to make sure the Connecticut Humanities is continued to be funded, please sign up on that list. And with that, I want to introduce, so certainly the entire staff that's here today. We got John, Charisse, Marion, can't do this without their amazing dedication and help. And Adrian, who is like my mini-me, come up here. Very often people say we look alike, but stepped in as curator after the tornado hit so I could focus on the building and the re-envisioning. But where she's taken the collection and the digitization and now the mummy research and project to expand these stories is unbelievable. So I want to turn this over to Adrian, and she can introduce the rest of the program. But again, we can't do this without you. Thank you for being here. That shows us that this is important work that we do, and we do it in service to you. So Adrian?
Well, I echo Kathy in welcoming you here today to the Barnum. It's really a thrill to be now in another phase of our journey of discovery as we continue to learn so much more about the Egyptian mummy and coffin in our collection. And again, thank you to Jerry Conlog, who connected us with our speaker today, Dr. Sahar Saleem. I wanted just to bring you up to date on a recent project. This was, again, one that Connecticut Humanities helped us do through funding, and that was to have a forensic recreation of our Egyptian mummy's face, her head, really, a bust sculpture. Jerry Conlog connected us to Joe Mullins, a forensic imaging specialist who works at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, which is in Virginia. He comes up to New York once a year to teach a workshop, a week-long workshop at the New York Academy of Art on how to do forensic sculpture. Jerry knew that we had the kind of CT scanning data necessary to do a 3D print of the mummy's skull, and that forms the basis of a forensic sculpture. So wonderfully for us, Joe Mullins took on our project, and he was the instructor of the course, and last March he recreated what our Egyptian mummy looks like. Now, that's just extraordinary. I mean, we've had the mummy here since, as Kathy said, 1894, but to finally have a good sense of what she had looked like in life, and through that to kind of reestablish her as a person, that was really important to us, and something that we wanted to share with our audiences, because so often people, look at mummified remains and think, well, this is somebody who died, but to be curious about who she was and about her life. So Jerry Conlog sent me an email one day. He knew I was looking for somebody who could really help us along in that journey of discovery, and he said, I have the perfect person for you, Dr. Sahar Saleem, and she will be here in the US in December. So I emailed her, and she very kindly agreed to come today. We don't have this sculpture, unfortunately, with us here, but there is a poster. You may afterwards have time to look at that and see that process and get a sense. I mean, it's not a precise representation, but it gives you a sense of what Our Lady looked like. So, we are very honored, of course, to have Dr. Saleem come here today to give us a presentation focusing on our mummy and bringing in all her amazing expertise. She has a medical doctorate degree in radiodiagnosis from Cairo University, and she's now a professor of radiology and the head of neuroradiology there at Cairo University. She's also the director of the Egyptian School of Radiology, and she is a visiting professor at the University of Western Ontario and University of Tennessee. Is that correct? Yes. She holds several posts in archaeology as a member of the Paleopathology Research Group at the University of Western Ontario, also as a member of the Egyptian Ministry Mummy Project, the Cairo Egyptian Museum Multidisciplinary Team, the Saqqara, is it Sate Tombs Investigation Team, and she serves on the Research and Exhibitions Committee of the National Museum of Egyptian Civilization. She has done extensive work on mummies, both people of nobility and commoners, and in 2016, she co-authored a book with Zahi Hawass called Scanning the Pharaohs, CT Imaging of the New Kingdom Royal Mummies. This was published in 2016, and the following year, it was recognized as the best popular science book of 2017. We do have a copy of it here for you to browse if you would like to, but I will give the podium to Dr. Saleem, and she will tell us lots more about our Egyptian mummy.
Thank you very much for hosting me, Kathy and Adrian. Thank you, Jerry, very much for proposing my name to be among those lovely people here. And to talk about something that I'm part of it, talking about women in ancient Egypt that comes from a woman from modern Egypt. So Egypt is definitely the only country in the world that it has a science by its name to study the artifacts, the civilization, and definitely the mummies. The 19th century was the time when there were massive excavations taking place in Egypt, and there were also a lot of trafficking of those monuments that tourists from Europe and the States would carry a mummy with them as a sort of curiosity, like the mummy that we have here in Barnum, and it would be our hero or heroine. And it wasn't really at that time uncommon to see such an advertisement to bring mummies from ancient Egypt as sort of a show, and to unwrap in presence of audience, public audience, with tickets. They paid tickets for that. And also on a private setting, like here this lord in Piccadilly, he is inviting his friends over a party of unwrapping a mummy, and at the end he's just he promised that whatever goodies they will find, they just like split it among themselves. Unfortunately, that was what left the mummies with after unwrapping and just like taking the goodies about it. So, but what happened to the actual mummy after having all the fun? That's really what they happened. They will grind it as a mummy powder that for at that time they would be taken as a medicine. If it's good, that made a mummy live for millennia, it would be good for a living person as well. And it be used as an incense for its like a sort of magical power or so. It would be used to paint, and it has the mummy brown. It was just famous at that time. And the worst of the worst, that tons of mummies, mainly cat mummies, they were shipped to England back in 1890. They thought that could be nice souvenir stuff, and it ended up not to be sold. So they put it as a fertilizer in the sand. So this is really what I would say the dark ages. When some of the mummies that they went their places to a museum or to a scientific or academic setting, it was also unfair that the only way to find out what is inside this mummy, its curiosity, even from a scientific point of view, was to unwrap and maybe dissect and cut it open. Maybe this is something similar to that happened in Barnum Museum, that the coffin and the mummy was donated, and it was the place that was known to have curious stuff from all over the world. And this what happened, that there would be, was unwrapping in August 15th, 1894. Unlike what was happening as a circus manner, no, it was in presence of the Bridgeport Scientific Society, the Fairfield County Historical Society, the Bridgeport Medical Association. There was in presence of public audience, and the result of this primary or preliminary investigation was that the coffin showed that was that of the priest, and the conclusion that this was an old man, like 5 feet 1/2 inch tall. So this was the conclusion after unwrapping. Unfortunately, we don't have an idea or maybe pictures of what was it the case before the unwrapping or any clue. This was in 1894. Unfortunately, this was only 1 year from the discovery of the X-ray. It was discovered in 1895. This mysterious radiation was first, cannot be tested on humans, so they tested it on mummies, on a human mummy and a cat mummy. And for the first time, the unseen was seen. They could see through the wrapped mummy. And this was actually marking the beginning of paleo-radiology or radiology of the antiquities, like mummy. And this was in 1896. And with the advancement of the technology, nothing like radiology really got benefit from this advancement of technology, like the CT instead of the X-ray that would see in only two planes as a flat film. Now we just like have a cuts, thin cuts, and they just put them together as if you have a loaf of bread cut into slices that you can gather together to have the whole picture. And the regions all over the subject or the human or the mummy can be seen and put together in different ways. And this was the happening in 2010, was it, Jerry, when Professor Gerald Conlog and Ronald Beckett were examining the host or the guest at the Barnum Museum and bringing it to the CT scan facility nearby where they did the endoscopic examination and also the CT scan. Here is Professor Gerald putting together the CT examination, and all the images that you're going to see, it's the work of Professor Conlog. And I'm just very happy to have a look at the images with you that he did. Is it possible to know, is it really a man or a woman? Can the body of a human tell us? Yes, actually, because the two parts of the body that would be affected by the hormones are the skull and the pelvis. So they would look differently. So this is King Akhenaten, and this is his skull. And you can see like a big skull, like rough features, maybe robust, and also this is the mandible, big mandible. On the opposite, this is Tuya, which is the great grandmother of King Tutankhamun, with this smoothness of the skull and with the profile, with the smoothness of the angle of the mandible, opposite the robustness of the angle, and with the pelvis, which is wider in this. We'll talk about it later. So these are the two that would let us. So this is the mummy here at the Barnum Museum, and talking about which side it would fit to Akhenaten or Tuya, it would fit more to being of a smaller size skull with smooth-looking bones and less prominent, and the angle is more or less like a smooth one. So it's just like with this appearance, it would fit maybe more like this one. What about the pelvis? The pelvis also, it is affected by the hormones, and this is how the male organ, all the angles are sharp angles, like here in the symphysis pubis, and here the greater trochanter, opposite to the female, which has wider angles, and also the cavity is wider cavity, and this is to accommodate giving birth. That the pelvis should be wide and should be not sharp for the child that will get delivered through it. And this is the mummy that we have. This is the pelvis that would look like with its wideness towards the family. And looking about the angles, we expected this to be actually a wider angle. Okay, but this was wide enough. So this is the one that would say that, yes, this could be a female. But talking about that, we have to know that there is a female-looking bones and a male-looking bones, like black and white. We all will agree on them. And there are some skeletons that would be in the middle, would be in this gray zone that we would argue, is it a man, is it a woman? And finally, we will just reach something together. So this, that's why that the identity or whether it is a man or woman, there was some argument about that, but it was towards the being a woman. the extra thing from the mummy, that the soft tissue parts are preserved, that would have us look at maybe the private part, they are preserved towards a man or a woman. And looking at the stature, it could be just there's a range because the head was detached. So it reaches the range of 162, and this is actually the heights or the stature of the people at ancient Egypt. Some would thought that they were just like very tall, or no, they were really average as any modern ones. So can the body of the mummy through CT tell us something about the age? We would like to look at the bones, where because there are the age that we can tell when the bones they get fused together. For example, here in the elbow, it's not until 14 years when the bones they come together. For the hip, it's at 17 years that the bones will together. So just like this is like a map that we will go and check, and this Our Lady, we can now call her Our Lady. Her bones are all fused, so her skeleton is more like fused, and this would give us here that her age could be 28 years or more. So what will help us to look about the degeneration to tell was she like a young age, middle age, or an old? And she had, she's having very good joints. There is no degeneration whatsoever. So maybe we'll just give her a decade of between 30 and 40 years with a good health and good likely either occupation that she had or a lifestyle that was not that stressful to her joints. And what about the mummification? This is very important, that mummification is still a mystery, because ancient Egyptians, they meant it to be like that. They documented by writing everything. When they sold something, they bought something, when they had like poems, even when their jokes, they wrote it. But they left nothing about mummification, because that's what they meant to be their secret. It's through this technology that we are trying to reveal some of the secrets that the ancient Egyptians deliberately wanted them to be so. And this is what we are looking at, how they could do it and preserve the body to live for millennia and maybe more to come. What we know from historians or ancient travelers who visited Egypt later in the civilization in 500 BC, Herodotus, who just told us about the process that took place over 70 days in special workshops, and what they would do, that the organs that would rotten in the body, they would just remove it. So they removed the viscera mainly, and sometimes the head. And after that, they would clean the body, which is important, from the Nile, to do a purification. And then they would just add salt from a special valley in Egypt, the Natron Valley. This process will stay like that to make the body dry. Then at a later stage, they would place the material inside the body just to fill it and to put special material that they went all over the world to get it. When I was in Indonesia giving a lecture at the museum, they just approached me and they told me, don't you know that the ancient Egyptians were here in Java? There were inscriptions that they came here because they were getting spices and material that they may have needed in the mummification. And after that they would place amulets and jewelry and wrap the body and make it really beautiful. Because this is the body that they believe that they will use in the life after. They believe that this life is not the end. There is resurrection after death. And this exact body that they're gonna use, so it has to be good, it has to be beautiful. That's why when they want to punish somebody, they would just, after he dies, you just like burn the body and disintegrate it. So there is no afterlife for you. That's it. And after that, they just like put it in a coffin, inside a coffin, and give the burial in the tomb. This was something very important for them. And believe it or not, for the amulets and the jewelry, the color matters, the shape matters, the material matters. And if you think of all those three, these are the energy. So it is the energy that is given by this amulet or by this object with this certain shape, with this certain color in the material. This really matters, and they were huge when it came to the in energy. So like placement of this. And they have very advanced also in manufacturing and the industry. That's why they had very nice tools in order to enable them to do this process of dissection. So it's the civilization that it is multifaceted. So they knew the body, the anatomy, and they have the instruments, and they have the industry to do such an instrument. They had the materials that they go from all over the world in order to bring them. I wonder how they knew that these are exactly the material with these characters that they need, and so they will go all over the world to get it. And one important one is the one they get it from the trees, not in Egypt, but in Lebanon, which is from the pine or cedar trees. When they cut the outer of the tree, this material would come off. And when it is like a solid, but when you heat it, it becomes like a liquid. This is the one that they use in order to clear the body and to prevent it from infection to come. And this is the resin material. I will point it inside the CT scans later for you. The CT scan, the nice thing about it that I can do some measurements, and this will tell me what kind of material is inside. This would help in our one. So this is our lady, and let's see what's going on here. This is one of the tools that ancient Egyptians they used to go from the nose to break the part of the skull here, which happened to be the weakest part of the skull. And this is actually what we do nowadays in surgery. When there is a tumor at the base of the skull, we would go from the nose and hit this area. And this will let you know that they knew the anatomy of the body well. So this is where they did that, and what they do that just like little by little, they would take off the brain, piece by piece. They will clean the cavity, and they would pour the resin material. They will heat it, this resin from the trees, and they just like pour from the nose till it goes to the here. It's supposed to be lying on the back, so it will the most dependent part. And when it is it's liquid, but when it is cold, it became like a solid and just like cooling down. Looking more further, Ronald Beckett, he saw it. So this opening in the skull through the endoscopy that he used in order to see it. And this is the CT, and it shows that this is the opening that they use here. And unlike other mummies that we commonly see, usually the opening is in the central part. But they did it in the hard way, and they had it a little off the center part. So this is in the sphenoid, not in the center. And this is really what just like made me think. This is not a thing that I usually see in the mummies. That I looked and see what other mummies in the other people saw that looked like that, and I realized that there was a mummy, the same thing, that this offset or not on the central part, the opening of the skull base was just like at one side. And it was from a place north to Luxor called Akhmim, and it came from the period that it is later during the civilization is from the Ptolemaic. This is what we do step by step, that we just see thing and then we would compare with other things, because this is a mystery, and that's how we learn about mummification. So, and this is the beautiful pictures that Professor Conlogue generated that showed actually that the resin material, it has sort of layering of one dense layer and another layer. So that means that they didn't pour once, but they poured another one. What would this make me think? Make me think of two things, that the embalmers at that time, they were changing their methods. They're like a scientist that would experiment. So this was a sort of method of experimentation. Another thing that would tell me that this lady was really rich, because this material was expensive. So having that amount of not only one serving, she had 2 servings. So that will tell me that, okay, she was a rich lady. And I studied how the ancient Egyptians did when they removed the brain, or what they did. And I just tried to place my lady here among others. For example, the earlier in the kings, the ancient Egyptians would leave the brain. They wouldn't touch it, but later on they would just open in the center, remove everything, but they wouldn't put anything, just like leave the skull, or they would add a serving or 2 of resin in the most dependent part, as Our Lady. Or in Tutankhamun, they did something else. He had 2 servings. He's a king, but his serving is one while the mummy was lying at the back, and one here. And this would never happen unless they just made the king's head very at the very back from the table, the mummification table, and just had this another pouring. What did they do that? Experimenting. and later on they wouldn't do resin, they would just put something else, like here it's a linen. So this is like the variation that will just make you understand that this is not like one thing that they would do, there's just a lot of variation. And this would make our job hard, because to know the style, we have to compare and just to relay on what we see. And remember that this is the part of the abdomen, and this is the opening where they make in order to remove all the organs that would rotten and make the body bad, and this is the body that they want to use. So they remove everything except the heart, because they believe that the heart is the place where the soul will come in. But sometimes there accidents happen, like in this one. There's something about the incision here, that this is not the usual incision that we use, that they used. This is a sort of more like vertical. They used to have it more oblique. So this was also some thing that we have to think about it. What does this really mean? Does it really mean something that happened early, very early, in the 4,000 years ago, because they used to have it like that? But also I saw it in other mummies that only they were 2,000 years old. So this is something that also we have to look about when dating. This is the chest of the mummy, and we searched for the heart, and the heart wasn't there. So it was accidentally removed. When they did something like that, what they do, they put a representative of the heart. We put a scarab or a heart amulet, but also we couldn't find any replacement of the heart here. But there's something nice here, that they put, after removal of the organs from the body, they placed a lot of resin material, this expensive material. It's here in her chest and here in the pelvis, a lot of material. So she must be very rich. But there's something also here that drew the attention, and that Ronald Beckett saw in his endoscopy and got these beautiful pictures, that there were packs inside the body. And this one, it shows you that these are actually the organs that they remove from the body. They wouldn't just discard it in the garbage. They would mummify, and they would put it usually in jars. This is what the style at one time, called the canopic jars, and each jar, it has a lead cover that has a characteristic appearance. And later in the civilization, they would just put it in a pack instead of a jar and put it back in the abdomen, where it first belongs. And this actually that tells us that this is something that happened between 600 to 500 BC. This style. Professor Conlogue, he located not only one pack, but he located in here, in this picture, 1, 2, 3, and in another picture 4. So there were likely 4 packs here. So this is also some clue that would tell us, okay, what was the date of this mummy? There was no date on it. So so these are like a puzzle. We have certain pieces. We are trying to put all the pieces together in order to know where she came from. 4,000 years, 3,000 years, 2,000 years. We just have to know that. And this is like I've told you that when they used to in the New Kingdom, they used to have 4 canopic jars. New Kingdom, this is 3,000 years ago. The viscera put it into jars. Each jar has a different lid. The head denotes what is inside. For example, here, when it is the head is a man, this is for the liver, and when for the baboon, this would be for the lungs, and the jackal for the stomach, and the hawk for the intestine. But later, from the 21st to the 25th, they would just replace the visceral pack in the abdomen, and then later they came back to the canopic jars. So this is like a style, like they changed the style, and this is our observation from what's going on. We're still revising because we get more mummies, we get to know, to understand more about that. So these things will be maybe revised after some time. So remember that this is the body that should be used, and it should be beautiful. And this is Tuya, the great-grandmother of Tutankhamun, and this is how the embalmers would do. Instead of the sunken eyes from they get dried, now they just place material inside in order to have it a lifelike appearance. And believe it or not, they used fillers. They would place material under the skin in these exact regions that now the modern plastic surgeons would place. Here, nasolabial, ladies, and here in the cheeks and in the temporal. And in a way that, if you look at the mummy, you would not find an incision, really, and the material that they use, it would be do the job very nicely. This is not also a face of a mummy. It's not like skin on the bone. So this is the Tuya. What about Our Lady? Did she had any chance to have any of that? Yes, she had some of the packs here in the eye sockets. So yes, she had some. But when it comes to the bone and skin, no, she didn't have that. This is like an extra method that would be done maybe for royal people or so at a certain time. So this will let us think, yeah, she could be maybe a common people, but she's rich, right? Then this is like the fillers. This is our Lady from Barnum Museum, and this is Tutankhamun. Tutankhamun, he had also his part in the material that is placed between the bone and the skin. But here there is nothing here between bone and the skin. And this is Tuya, the great-grandmother. And here the amulets, as I told you, the amulets, they came with different shapes, different material, and different colors. And this was really something that for a reason. For example, here, Eye of Horus, it's meant for healing power, and this jed, which looks like the vertebrae or the spine, it's for like the stability. So they had a meaning for everything. I searched for Our Lady, did she had any of those amulets, and she did not. So now we are revisiting the dating of the mummification. There are something that would tell us that it is from old time, and other things that would tell us, okay, maybe later time. So this is that we discuss, and this is actually the journey of studying the mummy, is to discuss everything and to put things together, and to then to just declare. And we are in this process now, currently, of studying all the data and adding more studies in order to help us to reach the right thing. The beautiful thing about the mummy, it's and the bones from ancient time, it's like a time capsule. That means that they would tell us everything about the person. They would tell us the diseases that they suffered from, if they have stress conditions, that they have sufferings, or if they have infection, tumors, if the environment was polluted. This would all show. And what is better to show us what happened thousands of years ago than a well-preserved mummy. So like if there is fractures or trauma or accidents, if there is infection, if there is a tumor, if there's stress conditions of anemia, and even number of pregnancies, like did they lift heavy weights, so the spine would affected, did they have like autoimmune disease, like everything would appear. And when we come to Our Lady, we'd say that no, but she seemed to have something in their back that will show now. This is the trauma, this is the Tutankhamun, this is the fracture that it showed in his leg. So this, I want to show you how the bone would carry the instance of the life of the person. And this is the Harris line, which is this line that would show that this person suffered from stresses in life. Maybe at time there were hunger or diseases or anemia or so. So this would let you know if this person had a healthy life or had not. And Our Lady, she didn't have that. That's just like an example. But actually, for 30 years, 40 years ago, she had really problems in her teeth that she shouldn't have. And this is the pictures, the lovely pictures that Ronald Beckett showed from his endoscopy to see the teeth. And I compared this with the normal degeneration or the removal of the enamel, what we call attrition, which have decades of age. And if we consider her like that, she should be very old in age. But her other joints wouldn't tell us this. But she had also other problems. She lost many of teeth during her life that made her bone really smooth, and she had also like abscesses and infection that went all the way. This will let us just imagine she must have pain, and also this is something that could have killed her, because if the infection goes to the blood, this will cause poisoning of the body. But this is something good that as all the facets of civilization, the medicine in ancient Egypt was very prominent. So they had aspirin-like material. Okay, so they from the trees. So and they have material like the antibiotic from the rotten bread. So one would think that, okay, she suffered a bit, but they had a treatment that she could have alleviated her pain a bit. And this is the problem in her spine. This shows that sort of maybe she had some of hard work on her spine, but also this is something that we can show no symptoms, and she can have not suffering from it. And also some people, they have it running in life. So this is what she had, so she could have lifted some of heavy weights or so. The coffin, on the other hand, this beautiful piece, it showed that it belonged to a priest, so it is for a man, and the date is, maybe 2,500 years, or maybe less than 3,000 years ago, and that this is something different that we saw. Could they have just switched the coffin during this market, the mummy market, for somebody else, or is this really her, and they put her as a man? This is something also we are discussing nowadays. Would this is something else? This is all that we have now research going on. But the most beautiful piece that really would bring her to life is the forensic reconstruction that was done for her based on the data given by the CT scan. The CT scan would give all the configuration of the measurements, and the forensic artists would just build on that from a clay material how her features look like based on the configuration and the shape of her features. And this is the face that is put on Our Lady. And just I want to tell you that it was privileged, Egypt and ancient Egypt at that time, to be a woman. And that's why all these ancient Egyptian people are happy, because they lived at that time. I will let you know how we think that ancient Egyptians really looked upon the woman. If you consider that the deities in ancient Egypt, the important deities, were women, beautifully looking women, and one which is like the core of the civilization is Ma'at. Ma'at, a beautiful lady, who is the central value of the civilization, and she has the concept of harmony and balance of life and truth. She's a lady, she's not a man, and with her this feather on her head. And also from the deities, the divine women were important part. Like look at Isis, look at Seshat, Sekhmet, Hathor, Taurat. Okay, and so this is, woman was an important thing even when they thought about who to worship. If you just go in the museums and look around, you will find a lot of love and affection that was in the family. There were really family love in common people and royal alike. And all the time you will find Tutankhamun is his wife. It's just like touching and caring. And so this was what it's about in a family. And they considered that all the children were important. All the children should be taken care of, girls or boys, and they called them the staff of the old age, or the soldiers of the old age, because they were investing in them. Those will just protect the parents and will just take care of the parents. And also, as a girl, Our Lady was beloved. This is the statue of Akhenaten with his little girl on his lap, and he kissing her. This is the love and the affection a parent would give to a girl child. So Our Lady, when she was child, she was born into a family full of life. She was beloved. And that's why when we want to know what was her name, we wanted to go through all the names famous or common at her time, and we found that what would fit her is Ipy. Ipy is the most favorite. She must have been the most favorite for her family, and she is for sure the most favorite here in Barnum Museum. So Ipy, and this is the way that it is written. And going deeply into Ipy, Ipy means also the clever woman and the one who will raise up children. And that's why it's related, it's one of the name of one of deity of the ancient Egyptian used, which is Taurat. Taurat is the great female, or the deity of fertility and pregnancy and the protective of the mother and children. And that's why the ancient Egyptian, they made her as a hippo, a pregnant hippo with a breast full of milk. And she is fierce. That's why they give her the back of the crocodile and the paw of a lion, with holding in her hand toward the ankh, or the key of life. So Ipy, the name of Our Lady that we picked, and it matched her very much. It actually goes very well maybe to her function in life, what she did, just raising up kids and fertility. Also during her childhood, she had a lot of toys. This one, it's there's in British Museum, but you can find it also in Egyptian Museum. This with this string that the cat can open the mouth and close it, and she has a doll with actual hair, and this is her the soccer ball she had, and this is also in Cairo Museum. She had this one that can the horse that can actually can move, and they had this one, these games that they play, which is like maybe a chessboard or so. As an education, girls and boys alike, they had education, and this is the Senmut, who is the tutor of Nefron, the girl. This girl was the daughter of Hatshepsut, and see how he is embracing her, and she is under his cloak. This is the role of the tutor, embracing the student and giving her education. So this is the level of treatment Ipy must have had during her life and education. If she wanted to study medicine, she could have done that, because there were institutes for learning medicine in ancient Egypt from north to south. And this is one important school of medicine. It was for a higher school of medicine for women only. And this is an inscription in Sa al-Hagar, which is in north of Egypt. From the, it was actually Sais or Sa. It was the capital of Egypt during the 24th and 26th dynasty. An inscription in the wall that we read nowadays, that one of the students, the female student, she said that, "I have come from the School of Medicine at Heliopolis." So she was at another school. She just finished her school, and now she came here at Sais and have studied at the women's school at Sais, where the divine mothers, the faculty of there, have taught me how to cure diseases. This is the level that Ipy would have went to be a doctor, and not only a doctor, she could have been a professor of medicine at the faculty, like the Pesishit in the 4th dynasty, 2600 BC, and this is the stela from the tomb of her son, that she shows that she is not only a doctor, a female doctor, but she is also an overseer. That means that she was a faculty. So this Ipy could have done this too. And there are also other professions that she could have been to be a divine woman in the temple. She could have been a priestess, a scribe, a singer, or simply to be the wise woman related to the treatment and sort of psychological support for the visitors of the temple. When she grew up after education, she could have fell in love, because romance was something that is very important. This is one of the poems from ancient Egypt. I shall never be far away from you, while my hand is in your hand, and I shall stroll with you in every favorite place. This is an actual a poem that will tell you the romance life at that time. Marriage was always respectable at the society of ancient Egypt, and to be a mistress of the house was something that is really encouraged to do. At the age of 13 years, the girl would get married, and the boy at 18. But this is important, that she has the right to choose the suitable man for marriage, and also she has the right to divorce him. And this is important even to know that they have a prenup agreement, that she can specify the bride price that he would pay, and agreement also specified the items that the bride brought into the marriage and what she would take with her in the event of divorce. The Egyptian marriage contracts tended to ensure that the ex-wife was not left destitute. Children always belonged to the mother, and they would go with her if there was a divorce, and the agreement was compiled by the bride's father and then signed in the presence of the witness. This constituted the marriage contract. Also, the terms of the marriage were clearly specified in the marriage contracted generally adhered and the wife kept the dowry provided by the groom at the time of the marriage until she gets remarried. So she's been always supported as an ex-wife till she gets married and somebody would pay for her. Unlike today, the spousal support was always paid from the husband to the wife. As a wife, she can always be hand in hand with her man, and she would help him in like farming, and just like here during the seeding time or during the harvest time. This is the sharing in life that they had together. Ipy, if she didn't want to go to medical school, it's okay. She can do some farming. Maybe this is what had really caused her backache. And had a problem in the spine, just helping her husband in farming. It could be the case. And she could have been a worker, a weaver, a baker or so, or she could have somebody to work for her, because we know that she was well-to-do. So likely she had somebody that she can work. So what about among other ancient cultures? It's important to know that an ancient Egyptian was really privileged to be a woman at that time compared to the other civilization. At the time of 300 BC, Egypt was conquered by Greece. And so there were two communities at the time, the Egyptian community and the Greek community. And each had their own laws and their own court and left. And believe it or not, the Greek woman envied the Egyptian woman for the rights that she had and that she can buy and sell and do whatever she wants, and do a business and to witness in a court and to file something in the court. This she can be done by herself without a guardian. While the Greek woman, she had nothing of these privileges, and she has to do anything with a curious or sort of a male guardian. So this was really a privilege to be there. And also this is Ipy when she had a child, and this is her time in the garden, just like eating fruits or so, because the civilization in ancient Egypt, it wasn't about death. Although we found like so many of like this funerary thing, but it wasn't about death. It was always about life. they lived their life to the best. And it was important for a woman to be happy and to have like very nice dresses, to have a makeup, to go to the hairdresser, and to have wigs and perfume. Even they have anti-aging creams. They also used to have parties and feasts where they can go. And this is very interesting one. This is Queen Kawit. Queen Kawit is just having her mirror with her, and the butler is giving her something to drink while the hairdresser is making her hair and just like doing the pinning on, so as if she's in like the most expensive hairdresser salon nowadays. So and also this is what she would have looked like. This is Nefret from the Old Kingdom at the Egyptian Museum. How beautiful she is, full of healthy, like her face, her kohl or her eyeliner, her wig, and everything is beautiful about her. So this is the life that any woman at ancient Egypt would look like, to be like that. Jewelry, of course, when you go to any museum, you would find the beautiful jewelry that came back from the time. This is they put on the hair, and this is the necklaces and earrings and bracelets. You just name it. Everything was so beautiful. Sandals and a nice thing, and also entertainment. They had so fun time having gaming board. Women and men alike, they used to do so this is like art and music and beauty was very important. And this is from Nebabun tomb. These are the masterpieces at the British Museum. Came from a tomb that nobody knows where it is now, because it was taken from there, and it represented very nicely the entertainment life of women at the ancient Egypt. You see how these women, they are very dressed in a nice way, as if they are attending an opera or so, and they are on their chairs and having their wigs and having this cone. What is this cone? It's a scented wax, so that they put it so when it is hot. At the end of they would smell very nice, and they wouldn't smell bad. It's like an air freshener, deodorant, or whatever. So this is like the way that they embraced life, and they just have fun. And this is like they were sitting here, and this is they're playing music and dancing, and this is the banquet that they had. Like fashion and beauty was really an important part of ancient Egypt. So putting Ipy now, she looked like many other women in ancient Egypt, and even looked like many women now in modern Egypt. And this is very important, that it's not necessary to unwrap any mummy in any place in the world. We'll just have a lot of information from what we are doing now. Okay, thank you very much for your attention.
So thank you so much. That was wonderful. You know, it's been a dream of mine for a long time to actually not just tell, Our Lady's story through a museum. She's got accession numbers, she's got some history about when she came, but now we can give her life. We can give her context. We can give her a woman's journey. And we are so grateful for you to do that. So please applaud once again.